morning, students. All the DNB students who are associated with me currently, the people who are watching me through my YouTube channel and through my Facebook page, along with the pages other than my own page that I keep posting my videos on. I'm very thankful to all of you, especially the students in the south who are subscribing to me. My classes actually started for the north, especially Delhi chapter, because I wanted to help those students out there by physically being there, taking up their classes. But because of the current situation that is going on, I took to online, and I'm really thankful for the kind of response that you people are showing me. And I'm sure these kind of you have a few confusions going on as well regarding the online classes. For example, some of you are the exam going batches and you don't have 5 months time in hand, to subscribe to my first course. So let me tell you that everything will depend upon what time you have in hand. How do you want to go? I'm also designing a website on it's on the way, but it's taking a little while for it to just come up. Till then, just bear with me. There are other students who are first year students, because of the fact that they don't want that the entire schedule gets finished in 5 months, and they are not that free that they finish off everything in 5 months. So let me just solve this confusion once and for all. So these classes are actually designed in a way keeping in mind the third year, the exam going batch. But if you are a first year student or a second year student, there is no problem. You just have to approach me. There are multiple batches of me currently running. One of them is a droppers batch, the other one is a exam going batch, one is first year batch, one is second year batch, in which it's very easy for to find placement, because I'm going very slow with the first year, going in an okay pace for the second year, and very fast for the third year. This 5 months thing, which I've put as one of my modules, is actually for the third year exam going batch. So I'll solve this confusion once and for all through this video of mine. But there are also, if you want to approach me, you can easily contact me, like many of you are contacting me through my WhatsApp, and I will solve whatever queries you have. So it's absolutely personalized. See, my main aim is currently to get you through your exams in the most easiest way possible. If you start doing and learning your topics right from the first year, if you start watching my videos, my notes right from the first year, then it will be very easy for you to revise, because these are the guidelines which are latest also and easily put in front of you, with the sole aim of making it very simple for you towards the end. I'm reading the chapter and making it easy, understandable, and making a video of it for the simple reason that when you take up the chapter and read it, you already know the gist of it. Okay, so I definitely want the first years as well to be associated with me, because then it will be a very easy walk towards the end, that is towards the third year, where you really require time and lots of revision. So if you revise the same thing again and again, then that thing will become very permanent in your mind. Otherwise, towards the end, if you start struggling, fidgeting with the last moment topics, then nothing goes inside. You feel that you've read it, you feel that you know this topic, but when it comes to the exam, you get confused with small, minute things, minute details, and this thing becomes even more difficult during exams, because it's very easy to catch a person who's not gone into the depth and has just read it superficially just to throw it in the exam and pass the exam. So DNB is definitely not one of those exams in which you can pass by fluke or make it easy by just ratifying the few things that keep coming and they're often asked in the exam. Because what kind of case do you get? What kind of questions do they fire towards you despite the case that you have? One example is the class that I'm going to take today. So infections in pregnancy is one topic that you feel that it's not very difficult, you can easily answer, because they are those subjects which you've already learned in medicine. Chicken pox, measles, mumps, herpes. But with pregnancy, things change. Which infection can cause congenital infections in the newborn? When infection contracted in which trimester? What is the management? Whether the rate of transmission is high in first trimester or it is in third trimester? Do you have to change the course of delivery in the third trimester? Or so on and so forth. These kind of questions, if you're not able to answer in Viva, there are two things very clear in examiners there. Neither do you know your medicine well, nor do you know your obstetrics well. So this is not one topic which you would ever want to skip. And your viva on fetal growth restriction, IUGR baby, can revolve around infections in pregnancy. Even a normal pregnancy, normal puerperium case, you always give a negative history that there was no history of any infection in pregnancy, or the history of any fever with rash in pregnancy, and the examiner catches you there. What do you mean by that? What are the differential diagnoses? Rash kis mein hota hai? What are the different kind of rashes which you can find in pregnancy? And this is such basic information that if you're not able to answer it, it will have a very bad impression on the examiner. So with that thing in mind, I'm going to take up a topic which is very important, kind of confusing as well, and again, like I said, not very much discussed, which is genital herpes in pregnancy. And there is a separate class I'm going to take on the etiopathogenesis, the signs and symptoms, so on and so forth. But today's class will be focusing on the management of genital herpes in pregnancy. I've divided it into the first episode of HSV in pregnancy, or a recurrent episode of herpes simplex in pregnancy, and the third will be primary or recurrent, but it is during onset of labor, very important time. And then there are certain specific cases, like how will you manage the newborn of a person who's had HSV in pregnancy, and a specific case which is HIV positive female with herpes simplex virus. So let's without wasting time, first let's get on to the basics of herpes simplex virus, which are 50% incidence is there of HSV type 1 and 50% is HSV type 2. So you cannot club. Now, if the patient has already contracted HSV 1, then if she contracts HSV 2, that is herpes simplex type 2, the presentation might not be like a primary episode. It could be like a recurrent episode. Okay, so the cross infection and the symptoms are different. The primary episode obviously is more dangerous than the recurrent episode. So in pregnancy, watch out for the primary episode. Now, how will you find out whether this is the primary episode or the secondary episode? Though it is there in my other class as well, but there is something which is called as avidity testing. IgG positive, but how recent, how old? Okay, IgM, of course, it will tell you like it always does. IgM titers pehle negative the, positive ho gaye hain, but this IgM titer alone will not be sufficient. IgG positive ho gaya hai ek baar, so you would want to know whether it was a kind of recurrent infection, or it is the first time ever episode of herpes simplex. So, and the avidity test, they take their own sweet time to come. The time is usually more, and you can't wait for that long. So you got to have a clinical acumen at exercising while deciding the management. But these are the guidelines which have been taken from 2014. Recent guidelines, the RCOG guidelines, and I'm going to talk, my whole lecture will be dependent on those guidelines. So let's take up the first one, that is the primary episode of herpes simplex virus. How do you do that? So a lady now comes to you, and she is let's say 7 weeks pregnant. Okay, let's take the worst of the worst case scenarios. Let's say that she is 7 weeks pregnant, that is in the first trimester, and she comes to you with a typical rash of HSV. Okay, you take a history, she's never had this kind of a rash before. According to her, this is her primary episode. So first question is, how will you counsel her? She will ask you for a termination of pregnancy because it's within range, and now she wants to ask you, okay, will it go to my baby, will it cause congenital infections, will it cause abortion? So here are two important things which I would like to quote you directly from the guidelines. First is, there is no evidence of increased risk of spontaneous miscarriage with primary genital herpes in the first trimester. That's one doubt. Okay, one thing is solved. So abortion wala question is solved. The second thing is spontaneous miscarriage ki baat kar rahi hu. Second question is congenital malformations. The most important question. Secondary, the congenital malformation because of HSV. So again, I'm quoting directly the guidelines, and they say there is no evidence that HSV acquired in pregnancy is associated with an increased incidence of congenital abnormalities. So first of all, the fact that it will cause a spontaneous miscarriage, the evidence is not there. And secondly, the HSV will cause congenital malformations, because of which you should ask her to terminate her pregnancy. Again, there is no evidence. So these two questions, they are solved. The third is, now what? How will you manage a case which is there at 7 weeks with primary episode of genital herpes? So the treatment is very simple. The treatment should not be delayed just because she's in the first trimester and you are worried about giving one of those antiviral treatments, and you're thinking about whether it's safe or not. So again, I'm going to quote. First of all, let me tell you what is the dose. You will give tab acyclovir, and the dose is 400 milligrams TDS for 5 days, which is the standard regime. Now, as far as acyclovir is concerned in pregnancy, let me again quote to you. Acyclovir is well tolerated in pregnancy. There is no evidence of an increased risk of birth defects with acyclovir, famciclovir or valacyclovir if used in the first trimester. So famciclovir and acyclovir are equally, no, I would not say equally potent, but out there in the market. Vala I don't prescribe much, but famciclovir is very much there, and they are saying that there is no increased risk of any birth defects. Again, the guideline is quoting it by per se, like it is. So the use of acyclovir. Why would you use acyclovir? Because the use is associated with reduction in duration, the reduction in severity of symptoms, and a decrease in the duration of viral shedding. That is also very important for you, okay? Because nevertheless the patient is contagious, isn't it? So it decreases the amount of viral load shedding as well. So this was first episode in the first and second trimester. So even if she comes to you at, let's say, this one I was talking to you about, first and second, that means I'm talking to you till 28 weeks of gestation. Alright, this will be your management, till 28 weeks of gestation, right from the first trimester. So सबसे difficult चीज जो मैंने आपको बता दी 7 weeks, so if she comes at 12 weeks, 14 weeks, 18 weeks, 26 weeks, 24 weeks, it will be the same management. You will counsel her, reassure her regarding the risk of abortion, the risk of congenital malformation, the safety of acyclovir, the need for treatment, and the need for treatment quick and effective and exact. Okay, as far as recurrent episodes are concerned, or the recurrence of HSV again in pregnancy is concerned, that will be my upcoming topic. So the second topic that I'm going to discuss to you about will be the management of a pregnant woman with recurrent genital herpes. Now for recurrent genital herpes virus in pregnancy. See, pregnancy being an immunocompromised condition, there can be a flare-up of any resident infection inside the human body, and this is known to be one of the dormant infections that can resurface anytime the body's immunocompetence or the immune system is all-time low, which is there in case of pregnancy. So if the female tells you कि नहीं नहीं डॉक्टर साहब पहले भी हमको इस टाइप का एपिसोड हुआ था, I've had this kind of episodes in past as well, so you know that this is a recurrent herpes simplex virus. So the kind of counseling that you have to give to such a kind of female who comes to you first, second or third trimester is the same. That you don't have to worry, the amount of viral load shedding is very low, so you're not that contagious, number one. Number two, the amount of transmission to the neonate is so low that even despite having genital herpes, I can still go forward and give a trial of vaginal delivery, which is otherwise contraindicated, let me tell you, in the primary infection. I'll get to that later. And then third, the fact that the incidence of preterm labor, PROM, IUGR, again, I'll just quote to you exactly the guidelines here, because this is not what I'm saying, this is not my experience, this is exactly the guidelines. So there is no increased evidence of risk of preterm, PROM or IUGR, the fetal growth restriction, associated with women who are seropositive for HSV. The incidence of congenital abnormalities is not increased in the presence of recurrent genital herpes infection. So what will you do for such a female after you've counseled her that the rate of neonatal transmission is also low, the viral shedding is also low, the risk of congenital abnormalities is also low? Whether you will go ahead and give her a treatment or you will just reassure her. So even if you just reassure her, give her good hydration, which is a baseline for all viral treatments, good hydration, rest. If there is fever, give Crocin or paracetamol. Just maintain analgesia, because in this situation, in herpes, the lesions are very painful. So analgesia, maintain the analgesia. Otherwise, you can also give, there is a recommendation of a maintenance dose of acyclovir, which is 400 milligram TDS from 36 weeks till delivery. Okay, maintenance dose hai ye acyclovir ka, so that whatever risk of neonatal infection, see, she has come to you with a lesion, all right, so you will do something for her. And I would want, basically, I'll just tell you personally, I would want to go in for this maintenance dose of acyclovir. because if nothing happens, it's good, but what if something happens, then she'll say, I came to you, Dr. Saab, you did not give me anything, you just reassured me, sent me back home. Otherwise, you can also tell her that 7 to 10 days this episode will go on its own without having any harmful effects on the baby or on your ongoing pregnancy. But still, I would want to give her a maintenance dose. Like I said, according to the guidelines, I'll again read, daily suppressive acyclovir 400 mg 3 times a day should be considered from 36 weeks of gestation until delivery. So this was about the management of pregnant women with recurrent genital herpes. The importance is that you should be very sure about the recurrent episode. It should not be the primary episode. If you want to know more about this fact, this very important diagnosis, to diagnose whether it is primary infection or a recurrent episode, you've got to see my other lecture in which I have talked about how will you find this thing out. There are multiple tests, important tests which you should know, along with their sensitivity and specificity. And the third one was a management of women with primary or recurrent herpes, but now they are at the onset of labor. How will you manage those cases? To understand this topic, that is the topic in which there is primary infection or recurrent infection, but in the third trimester, or let's say at the onset of labor, again 2 scenarios over here, I have purposefully divided it into sections in which I'll be discussing with you the guidelines. Now mind you, these guidelines are the latest 2014 October guidelines of BASH, that is British Association for Sexual Health and HIV, specifically talking about the management of herpes simplex virus in pregnancy. So this is the schedule in which I'll be talking about. I've tried to divide it into different scenarios for me to make you understand better. So the first scenario is in which a pregnant female comes to you at 34 plus 5 weeks. That is the third trimester. She's not in labor and she's come to you with a primary episode of herpes simplex virus. Now how do you get to the primary episode is by a detailed history, by diagnostic tests which have already been covered in my previous class. Please tune into that class so you understand the etiopathogenesis, the incubation period, the different kind of tests available, what history should you elicit, what are the tests through which you can find out this is primary or a recurrent infection, because unless you've diagnosed it properly, the management depends upon that. But even if you've not been able to diagnose it, whether it is primary or secondary or recurrent infection or cross infection, it's very simple. Just take a protocol in which it is more aggressive, so that you don't lose out on things. This is my prerogative. It's not written in the books. This is not a guideline, but I would want to go in for the more aggressive protocol. So anyways, so this is the first scenario. 34 plus 5 weeks pregnant hai, she's third trimester already, and now she is having let's say the first episode of the primary HSV. How will you counsel her? Admit her, hydrate her, give her analgesia, put her under paracetamol cover, and most important, of course, like hydrate, and most important for the baby's sake, for the maturity sake, you have to give her steroid. It's a controversial topic, but the guidelines, they say that you have to give her nevertheless the course of steroid, despite that she's already having an infection, because for the simple reason that any infection in pregnancy might lead to preterm labor, pre-prom, and so on and so forth. So to cover that, you have to give her a steroid course, and you will give her acyclovir in the same dose like I said before, 400 mg TDS for 5 days at least. But by the time you cover it, finish it off, it will be 36 weeks already. And this guidelines, it also says that 36 weeks se aapko maintenance dose of acyclovir continue karna hai till the time she delivers. What about the delivery? How will you plan the delivery in such a case? Will you go for vaginal delivery? Would you go for cesarean delivery? It is again this case you have to get to the guidelines. And what do the guidelines say about an episode which is flaring during the time of labor? You have to straight away go for cesarean section. Okay, I'll just read what they say. Cesarean section should be recommended to all women presenting with primary episode of genital herpes lesions at the time of delivery or within 6 weeks of expected date of delivery. So this falls definitely in almost in the category of 6 weeks of delivery. I would advise her to go for a cesarean section, because there is some evidence to, now the second scene I'll tell you later on, but during the intrapartum also the dose of acyclovir is different. That we'll discuss later. Now let's talk about a patient who is 34 plus 5 weeks pregnant. She has come to you with PROM. That means she's currently not in labor, but she has already ruptured her membranes. It's been more than 4 hours. Now comes the second important thing which I was about to read. There is some evidence to suggest that the benefit for cesarean section reduces if the membranes have been ruptured for greater than 4 hours. But I would still go in and give her a cesarean section option, because she's at the time of delivery, she is coming with active genital herpes simplex. So to cut down the neonatal transmission rate, I would want to still give her an option for cesarean section, though guidelines is somewhat contradictory here. And I will give her, now comes the dose. Intravenous dose of acyclovir has to be given intrapartum. And what is that dose? It is 5 mg per kg body weight. 5 mg per kg body weight given 8 hourly intrapartum. Intrapartum means at that time which you are planning to deliver the female. Why? Because right now she's in prom. She's not yet developed labor. Okay. There is just rupture of membranes. She's not yet gone in labor. So by the time you prepare her for cesarean section, this is the dose you have to give, and the maintenance dose you have to continue even after her delivery. And subsequently, neonate has to be given 20 mg per kg body weight every 8 hourly. You have to give acyclovir. May be considered for mothers opting, if at all they are opting for vaginal delivery, but I will give in case of cesareans also. But this is for vaginal delivery, the guideline says this is the dose. It is unknown whether intrapartum acyclovir reduces the risk of neonatal HSV infection, but yes, we will give it nevertheless. Neonatal herpes simplex in the baby, where primary episode genital herpes lesions are present at the time of delivery and the baby is delivered vaginally, you know how much the risk of neonatal herpes simplex is? 41%. That's very large. Very large. So I would still go in and give her a cesarean section ka option, not an option for vaginal use, strongly. Okay. And now comes 37 weeks in labor with primary HSV. It's going to be the same thing. You will admit, in this case, you will give an intrapartum dose of acyclovir, that is 5 mg per kg, 8 hourly. You have to give it to the neonate also, despite that we are going in for a cesarean. I would want to go here for a C-section. Has to be delivered. Right now she is having primary infection in her genital areas. So I will give her the intrapartum dose of acyclovir, the intravenous dose, and I will deliver her through cesarean section. No doubt about that. Because the risk of transmission, like I just told you, is 41%. That's pretty large. So I will not take that risk. And the similar thing was, and now she's not in labor. She's 38 weeks with primary herpes simplex. What do? You will admit her, you will start her on the intravenous acyclovir. You will give her an option for cesarean section, because right now she's, the baby is fully mature, she's having active genital, the herpes is there, and she's not in labor. So she should go in directly for a C-section. Things rapidly change when we talk about recurrent herpes, because the risk of neonatal transmission is pretty low. Not just that, even the viral shedding is very low. So you can even skip the intrapartum intravenous dose of acyclovir. You can keep her on oral acyclovir. And as far as neonate is concerned, how will you treat the neonate? Is there a need for intravenous acyclovir in the neonate or not? I will just read it out to you. Women presenting with recurrent genital herpes at the time, at the onset of labor, should be advised that the risk of neonatal herpes to the baby, the risk is just 0 to 3% for vaginal delivery. So they should be given an option of vaginal delivery. So vaginal delivery should be offered to women with recurrent genital herpes lesions at the onset of labor, which is so much in contrast to what I just spoke about with the primary herpes. It has been reported that invasive procedures, now there are certain invasive procedures. FIV is an invasive procedure. The scalp electrodes, scalp pH, cord blood sampling, fetal blood sampling, they are all invasive procedures. They increase the risk of neonatal HSV infection. However, given the small background risk, that is just 0 to 3% of neonatal transmission, it is unlikely to be clinically significant in case of recurrent herpes simplex. Cesarean section delivery can be considered if there are obstetric reasons. So this was about the recurrent herpes simplex and the primary herpes simplex in a female who's come to you in third trimester, be it in active labor or not in active labor, be it with trauma. I have discussed all the possible scenarios to you. So I hope these things are clear to you, because now I'm going to talk about the neonatal management, and I'll be talking to you one specific case, that is HIV along with HSV positive. Now, discussing the neonatal management, I have made it very compact and precise and concise regarding the case scenarios that will ever be asked to you, or the understanding of the gist of why it is important while we're talking about neonatal management in case of genital herpes simplex. So there are 3 case scenarios that will be they are very important for you. Like, first of all will be the neonate which has been born by a cesarean section to a mother who has had a primary herpes simplex virus in 3rd trimester of pregnancy, anywhere close to delivery. She's contracted primary HSV within the 6 weeks of delivery. Okay, so a neonate which is born to a mother by C-section. सबसे important, the most important thing is you will involve a neonatal team, obviously. You will keep a close watch. Now the rate of neonatal transmission here, because it is done by a C-section, is pretty low. So the baby is at low risk for vertical transmission. So, but nevertheless, you will watch for all signs and symptoms. You will teach the mother, the parents about, the effect of any kind of infection in baby. So watch out for poor feeding, lethargy, irritability, amount of stools that the baby is doing, the hydration status, poor feeding. All these signs and symptoms have to be watched out. Number 1. Number 2, good hand hygiene, good personal hygiene, and avoiding of contacts with multiple people should be there. Okay, obviously the neonatal team should be involved in this. Whether the baby should be admitted, whether intravenous therapy of acyclovir should be asked to done, there is no need. There is no need for intravenous acyclovir to be given. Swabs for culture, they are not sent here. Lumbar puncture, obviously it is not needed because it is not a very high risk case. So no active management, no active treatment is required. But the parents are educated to report any sign and symptom, any lesion in the eyes, in the mucous membrane, on the skin, that has to be reported. They have to look for any signs and symptoms of, like I said, poor feeding, so on and so forth with the baby, and they have to report it immediately. Second comes the baby which is born through vaginal course to a female who was having active herpes during labor or any time in the 3rd trimester, any time during the 6 weeks of delivery. So this baby is at very high risk, almost 41%, like I said, vertical transmission rate is there. So this baby is at very high risk for development of neonatal herpes, the primary herpes. So here you will have to give you have to give intravenous acyclovir, which is at the dose of 20 mg per kg every 8 hourly. You have to admit this, obviously, this baby. You have to look for all the signs and symptoms of lethargy, poor feeding. You might have to give the top feed as well. Breast milk is not contraindicated in this case unless the mother has active lesions on the nipples. So she has to be cohabitating with the with the baby. She should be along with the baby, can breastfeed the baby. Whether you will send samples, skin, mucous membranes, oropharynx, rectum, these samples, swabs of these samples should be sent for what? For herpes simplex PCR testing. Lumbar puncture, though it is not necessary, but if the baby develops signs and symptoms of meningitis or any cerebral irritation, then lumbar puncture might have to be performed. Okay, and intravenous acyclovir has to be given. Strict infection control procedures should be followed. The baby has to be isolated from the rest of the babies in the nursery. And then comes the third. It is exactly like I just spoke about, cesarean section, because here again the risk of neonatal infection is pretty low. So you have to manage the baby in the style that we were doing here in the first case. And in cases where there are concerns regarding the neonate, there is a clinical evidence of sepsis. In that case, you have to give intravenous acyclovir. Might also be a room for lumbar puncture, and of course you have to send the swabs for PCR for HSV. And quickly I'll just speak about the last and one of the cases that I was talking to you about, the management of HIV female who has got HSV infection. Now, what if she has a primary HSV infection? So, exactly what the guidelines are saying. HIV positive women with primary genital herpes simplex infection in the last trimester of pregnancy should be managed according to recommendations for all women with primary genital herpes. Number 1. Number 2, what about recurrent herpes simplex? Well, there is some evidence that HIV antibody positive women with genital HSV, ulceration in pregnancy are more likely to transmit HIV infection independent of other factors. So if they have ulceration also at the time of the HSV ulceration at the time of around delivery, they'll be able to transmit HIV infection more. This is not a consistent finding though. Women who are HIV antibody positive have a history of genital herpes should be offered daily suppressive acyclovir 400 mg thrice a day from 32 weeks of gestation to reduce the risk of transmission of HIV infection, especially in women where their vaginal delivery is planned. The mode of delivery should be in line with HIV pregnancy guideline recommendations, which I'll be discussing to you in the next class. There is currently no evidence to recommend daily suppressive treatment of HSV for HIV antibody positive women who are HSV 1 or 2 seropositive. Seropositive means जिसमें antibody है. That I am talking about is the recurrent episode of genital herpes. So with this, I am finishing off with the management of herpes in pregnancy. If there are any doubts, you're most welcome to WhatsApp me. And the next class I'll be talking about another infection in pregnancy. So watch out.